Hello, Colorado Realtors. I'm Scott Peterson. Thank you for joining me for another edition of Legal Bites. So, in today's episode, we're going to be talking about something that maybe a lot of you guys are tired of hearing about because it's been a very high-profile, active topic over the last 12 to 18 months, but it really needs to continue to be because it's still going on. And it's a problem. It's a very expensive problem, particularly for buyers that get taken advantage of. But you as realtors need to be thinking about a couple elements of this, and I want to point some of those things out. So cyber fraud and realtors, always click cautiously is today's topic. Number of reasons that cyber fraud has been so pervasive in the state of Colorado. Number one is Colorado's been a very hot, high-profile real estate market, both nationally and internationally. We've got some big high-profile resort communities that are noticed or on an international basis, and of course we've got a lot of in-migration, a lot of people looking and moving to Colorado. High-velocity market, one of the hottest markets in the entire country, generally speaking. So that's the threshold matter that we'll look at. But over and above that, you as realtors make really, really fantastic targets for cyber criminals. And I think there's two primary reasons for that. The first reason is because cyber criminals know that you are working on expensive transactions. You're not selling widgets. You are selling 6, 7, maybe in some cases 8-figure real estate and involved in large real estate transactions with lots of zeros behind it. So that's the first reason. The second reason is that your information is everywhere. I drive by bus stops and I see realtors with their photo and their email address and phone number. At the grocery store, I see shopping carts with realtor photo and email address and phone number. Your websites, your business cards posted on pin-up boards at restaurants and delis. You're everywhere. You got to be everywhere. I mean, you're selling your most valuable asset. That's really all you've got to sell, and that's yourself. And as a result, you've got to have your information out there and everywhere. But for those two reasons, you're everywhere, your information is everywhere, and criminals know that you're acting or that you're working on high-value transactions. You make pretty darn good targets. So you have to be very, very aware of sophisticated scammers. So what are the couple, well, there's two primary areas where I want to just address today. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the wire fraud scam. You guys, I'm hoping everybody out there knows the scam, where fake email comes from a title company. It goes to your buyer right before closing with wiring instructions for them, and they're fraudulent wiring instructions. They authorize the wire, and the money gets sent to some overseas account of some hacker, scammer, whatever, and in many cases it's gone for good. I think the government has done a better job, our federal government has done a better job of retrieving those things in the event that they are notified and the wire authorization is withdrawn very, very, very quickly. So that's an education piece for your client and for you to be paying attention, in addition to the fact of educating your clients that the wire fraud scam's going on out there and that they shouldn't be just relying on email, on a supposed email from a title company before they hit send on a wire authorization. But you all understand that. That's an education topic. The other thing I want to talk about is the phishing scams, and this is kind of how they often penetrate your email address and are able to access your information so that they can access your email. And this often comes through what we'll call phishing scams or keylogger viruses, things that are going to inject a virus onto your computer. And I'm going to say this now because I'm now seeing it in my email. I'll get an email that looks like a legitimate email from DocuSign or Dropbox, are two of the ones that I've personally seen. And it looks like a very legitimate email from one of those two companies, and I use both of those services. And so when it gets it, my inclination is, hey, I've got to click on this to open it up and see what I'm supposed to sign or what new document's been uploaded to my Dropbox account or whatever it is. And my first inclination in looking at the email is, I need to click on this link. But upon closer inspection, it just looks a little bit off. There's a little bit of an inconsistency or inaccuracy, whether it's in the logo, whether it's in the cadence of the wording of the email, whatever it is that just doesn't quite seem right. And so it forces me to say, wait a second, before I click on that link, I want to double check, and maybe I'll log in independently to my Dropbox account online through my computer, or I'll log into DocuSign independently and see if that in fact was intended for me. And in the cases that I've seen, that hasn't been the case. Those have been fraudulent emails looking for me to click on a link, and when I click on that link, which I haven't done, it takes me to some place that probably an innocuous website, or maybe it even actually takes me to some Dropbox landing page. But in clicking on that link, it is essentially injecting my computer with a virus that may be a keylogger virus or something else that sends back information to the scammer or hacker or whoever generated that email, to where they can see my keystrokes. And if they're going to see my keystrokes, then what will they eventually see? They'll see my usernames and my password. And so whether that's for my Gmail account, or whether that's for my Outlook accounts, or whether it's for my bank accounts, or your MLS logins, or whatever they may be, your passwords become something that they have access to just by looking at your keystrokes, as these viruses send the information back to the bad guys. So you have to be very, very, very cautious about everything that you're clicking on. Again, because I can go to the shopping market and probably find the names and email addresses and contact information for 2 or 3 or 4 realtors. If I was a scammer, I can very easily send them emails, or I can go to the internet and find your your websites with your email addresses and all of your information on it. And I know that you're people that are getting stuff from DocuSign or Dropbox or other real estate related websites, and you've got a pretty high propensity in your busy, hurried lives to click on something that you shouldn't be clicking on. So best practices, first of all, education. Make sure you're educating your clients that these wire fraud scams going on out there, and you know what to do. Make sure that they're voice verifying, they're picking up the phone, they're calling the title company independently of any phone numbers that have been given in wire instructions or wire authorization email, and that they're actually doing that independently. Educate, 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 and that's the #1 way we can force this stuff out. Think before you click. If you have any questions at all, if something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't. So think about it, look at what you're being asked to click on, and don't click on it if there's any questions whatsoever. Try and source that information somewhere else and verify the legitimacy. Use virus protection on your computers. Seems obvious. Sometimes people feel like, oh, it slows my computer down, or I don't really like it. You really need to be using that, because if your computer does get infected with a virus, like a keylogger virus or through some other phishing scam, then there's a much better chance that it's going to either protect your computer from accepting that virus, or at least identify that the virus has been put onto your computer. And then use whatever technology is available. They've got password managers. Certainly make sure you're using encrypted email. All of those things, those are common sense stuff, and I've talked a lot about that before in other writings and in-person presentations, and maybe even in Illegal Bites. But be thinking about the obvious stuff. And so, but educate, educate, educate. That's the #1 piece of advice that I can give you. As always, the Car Legal Hotline is available Monday through Friday from 9 to noon and 1 to 4. So use that as a resource as well if you've got additional questions. Thanks so much for your membership in the Association of Realtors, and we'll see you next time on Legal Bites.